Welcome back. Today we're talking about one of the hardest things a writer can do, proofreading their own work. Here's the problem. You've lived inside your story for months. Your brain knows every sentence so well that it stops actually reading the words. Instead, it reads what you meant to write. That means typos, missing words, and awkward sentences hide in plain sight, and you walk right past them every time. But there are ways to trick your brain into seeing the page with fresh eyes. Let's break it down. First, a quick reality check. Proofreading is the very last step. We're talking about fixing typos, grammar, punctuation, and formatting. Nothing else. If you're still moving chapters around or patching plot holes, you're still editing. Don't proofread a scene you might delete tomorrow. That's wasted effort. Only start proofreading when the story is locked. Then you focus on the small stuff: spelling, grammar, missing words, punctuation, and formatting. Step 1. Build a style sheet. Before you read a single page, open a separate document and start a style sheet. This is your consistency guide. Write down how you spell every character name, every made-up place, every fantasy term. Note whether you capitalize certain titles. Decide once and stick to it. Track things like character ages, eye color, hair color, magic rules, injuries, and timeline details. This sounds boring, but it saves you from the embarrassing mistake of giving your hero brown eyes in Chapter 3 and green eyes in Chapter 20. This step is not just for fantasy or sci-fi writers. You can use your style sheet to note down how you spell specific words, such as coworker with a hyphen, or just coworker without a hyphen. Step 2. Change how the page looks. Here's a simple trick that works surprisingly well. Change the font. If you've been staring at 12 Pete Times New Roman for 6 months, your eyes are blind to it. Switch to something completely different, even Comic Sans. Yes, really. An unusual font forces your brain to read every single letter instead of skimming. You can also increase the font size, change the background color, or send the manuscript to an e-reader. Print out a few chapters. A new format makes familiar text look strange, and strange text gets read more carefully. Another option: switch to high contrast dark mode with white text on a black background. The change in contrast shocks your visual memory and forces your eyes to re-engage with the words. Step 3. The text-to-speech pass. This is your first full read-through, and you're not doing the reading. Use the Read Aloud feature in Microsoft Word, Google Docs, or Scrivener. A robot voice will read your manuscript back to you while you follow along. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly effective. A robotic voice has no emotion and no instinct. It will stumble over clunky dialogue. It will read your accidental double words out loud. It will expose sentences that are way too long. You'll catch things your eyes never would. Step 4. Hunt your weak words. Every writer has words they overuse. When you're typing fast, certain words become habits. Common offenders include just, really, suddenly, looked, felt, very, that. Use the find function, Control F on Windows, Command F on Mac, and search for these words one at a time. Go through each result and decide if the word actually needs to be there. Aim to cut at least half of them. While you're at it, look for repeated gestures and reactions. Did your character shrug 17 times? Did someone sigh in every other scene? Did 3 different characters bite their lip? Search for these patterns. You'll be surprised how often they appear without you noticing. Step 5. Run these quick technical searches. Now we get into the mechanical fixes. These take just a few minutes, but catch errors that are easy to miss. The double space purge. Search for 2 spaces and replace them with 1. You'll find dozens, maybe hundreds of these hiding in your manuscript. The unclosed quote hunt. Missing closing quotation marks are one of the most common errors in fiction drafts. Search for dialogue endings, period quote and comma quote, to quickly audit your dialogue. Look for any lone quotation marks that don't have a partner. The ly sweep. Search for words ending in ly followed by a space. This surfaces your adverbs. A lot of them can be cut and replaced with a stronger verb. He walked quickly becomes he sprinted. Step 6. Fix your dialogue punctuation. Dialogue punctuation trips up a lot of writers. Here's the rule, nice and simple. If a dialogue tag follows the quote, like she said or he muttered, use a comma inside the quotation marks. If an action follows the quote instead of a tag, use a period. Step 7. Read backward, sentence by sentence. This is the final pass and the most powerful one for catching grammar errors and typos. Start at the very last sentence of a chapter. Read it on its own. Then move to the sentence before it. Work your way backward to the beginning. When you read forward, your brain follows the story and stops checking grammar. Reading backward breaks that pattern completely. Each sentence exists on its own, with no plot pulling you forward. You see the words for what they actually are, not what the story told you they should be. If you're short on time, maybe you're under a deadline or finishing an exam, here's a focused 4-minute routine. Minute 1, the tense sweep. The most common mistake under pressure is slipping between past and present tense. Spend 60 seconds scanning only your verbs. Make sure you didn't accidentally drift from past to present in the middle of a scene. Minute 2, homophones and punctuation. Skim for the classic mistakes. There, it's, your. Make sure every piece of dialogue has a closing quotation mark. Minutes 3 and 4, the finger point trace. Use your finger, your cursor, or a pen tip to physically point at every word as you read. Don't let your eyes jump ahead. This forces you to register missing words and accidental duplicates that tired eyes gloss over. A few more tricks for when time is tight. If you're writing by hand, don't try to read every single line when you're rushed. Instead, start at the bottom of the page and read random sentences upward. Without the story pulling you forward, you're forced to see the actual words on the page, the spelling, the handwriting, rather than what you meant to write. The first and last border check. Take 10 seconds to scan just the left and right edges of your paragraphs. Check that every sentence starts with a capital letter and ends with a period, question mark, or exclamation point. Under pressure, it's surprisingly easy to leave sentences hanging with no ending at all. If a word looks wrong, swap it out. If you're staring at a word like beautiful or necessary and something feels off, but you can't remember the correct spelling, don't waste time guessing. Delete it and use a simpler word instead. Pretty, needed, essential. A simpler word spelled correctly will always score better than a complex word spelled wrong. Before we wrap up, I've put a free proofreading checklist in the video description so you can follow these steps every time without having to remember them all. One last thing, know when to stop. At some point, you stop improving your writing and start just changing it. The goal isn't a perfect manuscript. It's a clear, engaging, emotionally effective one. Proofread with a method. Fix what you find, then let it go. The reader doesn't need flawless, they need real. That's it for today. If this helped, give it a like and save it for the next time you're editing. More writing tips coming soon.